Welcome to the Business Forum Show. Kevin Hunter here at the broadcast desk on Northwest Digital News. Adam Wallschlager joins us from Action Coach out of Minnesota. And Adam, we have a touchy-feely subject on the show today. So where would you like to start?
I'm the empathetic person on the team, so that's why I got voted to.
There you go. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, we had we do our quarterly, we call it our 90-day strategic planning for all our clients. And this was the kind of the featured presentation we did for our education that day. And, as a business coach, we're obviously trying to help move businesses forward and solve some of their problems. But a lot of it comes down to the quality of the decisions they make. Mm-hmm. And, what is their state when they're making these types of decisions? Because if they make quality decisions from a quality state, they're going to get quality results. Mm-hmm. So you need to dig into what are the things a person can do, from the moment they wake up until they are making the decisions to get in that right state of mind.
Let's visit about physiology and how it's important what you're doing with your body.
Yep, and it is. When we talk about physiology, one of the main examples is this idea of feeling depressed, right? Mm-hmm. So everyone could describe the difference between a depressed person and a happy person. We could talk about where their head is their head up or down? Is their rate of speech fast or slow? Is their chest and shoulders backing up or down and kind of hunched in? Are they smiling or are they looking like they have a frown on their face? Mm-hmm. Right. So it's all of these things that, why do we know the difference between the two? A lot of the times is we've been practicing this stuff for years, so we can quickly identify it. So what happens with our mind and our body when we decide we're going to change our physiology, right? What happens when your shoulders go back? What happens when you put a smile on your face? Mm-hmm. That's an example in working out. It's kind of painful, it's tiring, but if you put a smile on your face, it's not just like we said, a touchy-feely thing. Your body, your brain are so wired that when you do that smile, it actually tells your brain and your body that you are happy. So it's almost like you kind of have control over the buttons of how you feel.
So the second thing on here is focus and belief. But interestingly enough for me, when you're talking about, you can tell really how somebody's feeling, based on their physical stature or how their body is conveying that feeling. I think about the individual themselves, and would you agree that your feelings create this physical posture, but this physical posture then reinforces the feeling, and the two of them just kind of feed each other?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a snowball. You gave a great example earlier about the steps that you're taking towards something or what you're going to be experiencing, right? So I think if you think about it, people are rewarded for their behavior, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're not getting the results you want, the only obvious answer is I'm not good enough. I can't do it, right? These kind of negative things. Well, if you put these excuses in place, right? If you focus on all the reasons why things aren't working out, it feels better, right? It's like a protection thing. But at the end of the day, you're not going to get the results you want, right? So it's like you're just kind of stuck in that place of focusing on the wrong things, because we all can, right? The example I used was, just imagine yourself getting ready for church in the morning on a Sunday, screaming and yelling at your kids, yelling at your husband, where's all the stuff? And then, you get in the car and you show up at church and it's like, oh, good morning. Yeah. Bless the Lord. Yes. God is good. And everyone puts that smile. I mean, you can do it in that situation. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of examples we talked about. So if you can do it in those situations, right, you could be yelling at your family and the phone rings. Oh, hey, how are you doing? Right. It's possible. So why not put a strategy in place to harness that ability to switch your focus in a moment?
Yeah, bingo. And for people who make this excuse about, that this thing influenced them or that thing influenced them and they can't be in the right frame of mind because of this situation, that situation. I actually witnessed a very low IQ person. When I say this, I'm not picking on people who may have mental handicaps. This is a person who had a measured IQ of 59. And they happened to be drunk at the time as well, so highly intoxicated. And they were in a group setting with family members, just berating, and this foul, the language was just incredible that was coming out of this gal's mouth. And the doorbell rings. and she turns around and answers the door. Now, if somebody's in a situation where they can't possibly channel anything positive, she has every excuse in the world, right? But she turns around and answers that door and very cheerfully says hello, talks to the person on the other side, conveys all this excitement to them. The little child comes in that the mother had dropped off. The kid disappears in the back room. Door closes. She goes back into her attitude she had before. And, you know, I sat there afterwards, you know, in my own mind and realizing here's somebody who's severely intoxicated, very, you know, minimal mental capacity, even when they're not intoxicated, and yet they knew how to behave in the situation. Why can't we, as very normal human beings and not intoxicated people, we can choose too, and obviously we can even make better decisions. But that was actually a great experience for me to see, because it told me and shared with me just how much we really are in control of what we're doing and what we're thinking.
Yeah, and you know, the I guess the nugget that I'd want people to know about this is that the negative is always available. It's always available if we want it, right? So why not give the kind of the positive mindset a chance to see what will happen? Because you can always go back to your negative thinking if you want. There's plenty out there to be negative about. I just think it's harder to focus on the positives because we see the negative so often. And the other thing is culturally, negativity is much more accepted. If you show up at work and say, yeah, you know, I got this going on, this and this, I'm really bummed and this, people will say, I hear you. I hear you. I know what that feels like. But if you come in the office and you're smiling, you're happy, you're feeling good, and you don't have a specific reason, people are like, you're crazy, right? No one's happy, you know, for no reason. Something good must have happened. But no, like, why is being happy automatically not okay? Right? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. Why is that bad? Why is negative okay and positive is this? Oh, you're one of those positive thinking. Well, is it better to be a negative thinking person? You know, argue with me about it.
You know, when you mentioned that, I've over the years have had an opportunity to have interviews on occasion with people who actually work in the field of psychology and psychotherapy, and I've asked that question a few times. And what they have shared with me is that it is actually human nature to be negative. And if we are going to be positive, we have to be positive on purpose. So what does that tell you? That you're going to have to implement habits and traits, things into your day that cause you to be positive on purpose. Otherwise, you're not going to do it.
I like that. Yep, absolutely.
Let's visit about our language and how important language is to where we're at emotionally.
Yeah. And this one is the hardest thing to, how do you say it? Act, like you said, on purpose, being positive on purpose. I think the language is one of the hardest things. So, and here's why. You would never say some of the things that you think about yourself to another human being, right?
Exactly.
It wouldn't be okay, right? But you'll say it to yourself and you'll say it over and over all day long. And I think this concept that really hit me was actually in this, if people want to read this book, talking about the feels, I almost didn't read this book just based on the title, but it was one of the best books I ever read. It's called The Untethered Soul. And the whole kind of, right, people laughed in the studio. But here's what he's talking about is your brain just takes in information. Your eyes take in information. And what your brain does, it has to process that information that's coming in. So essentially what you're doing on a daily basis, all day long, every day, is you're narrating the information that you're seeing. You're taking meaning from what you're seeing. It's why, Kevin, you and I could see the same thing, and you could be like, yeah, no big deal. Yeah, that didn't, you know, and I could be like, oh my gosh, that's so offensive. It's all about the meaning we take. So we're having this little story that we're talking to ourselves about all day long. And if you did it out loud, everyone would call you crazy. But you're doing it internally, right? As I'm talking, everyone who's listening is narrating to themselves what I'm talking about, right? Not just the information, but what it means. So what's that language you're using? Are you repeating that same negative language? Are you calling yourself a horrible loser, you know, those sorts of things? Or are you using language that's positive? So here's the real problem. I love what you said about how, you know, human nature is negative. Okay, so how do you change that around? You could say it to yourself in your head, but you almost need to speak it out loud.
Yes, you do.
So what does that mean? right? You're going to look like a crazy person, right? But it's those I am statements. It's standing in front of a mirror and telling yourself the truth as opposed to what you're thinking negatively in your head. That's the only way you can kind of overcome those things. But it's very, very, very uncomfortable to speak those things out loud because it just feels unnatural.
We can also take, you see some of the plaques or sayings or posters, that people hang up around their place of business or around their home, all of that kind of language too. It's the unspoken language, but if that's the kind of stuff that you're seeing around you, that also will inspire that more positive nature out of you, and really recommend that people do as much of that as possible because helps you
Absolutely.
remember.
Yep. And you think about that, when a business fails or there's a negative thing, right? It takes kind of 10 positive things to change it around. Well, if you say one negative thing to yourself, it's going to be very impactful. You actually have to go over the top on saying those, positive, truthful things to almost counterbalance all the negativity you've put in your life.
hmm Along the lines of the victor versus victim thinking, and we've talked many times over the years about ownership, accountability, and responsibility being that victor type mentality and above the line, and blame, excuses, denial being that victimized kind of thinking below the line. And there was a situation in my life that I really needed mentally to get through, and I took and put a black line right through my bathroom mirror and put those acronyms above and below. So I got to ask myself every time I walked into the bathroom in the morning to take a shower, are you above the line or below the line? It really helped me on purpose focus on the positive things that I needed to be doing and embracing that ownership, accountability, responsibility.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, and I got to start listening to myself more too. Like if I was saying things that sounded like blame, excuses, denial, I was able to stop myself right away because that visual image of that bathroom mirror was in my mind all the time. So there's a lot of ways that you can program yourself towards those positive things that you need to be doing, and really highly recommend people.
Yeah, and you know what, Kevin, too, the time in which you do it. So, there's a reason for days. I don't know what it is, but you wake up and it's a new day. There's something about starting it out right that changes the outcome of the day. So what most people do as soon as their alarm goes off is they grab their phone and they start checking their email and their social media accounts, which generally is either other people's agendas or negativity or, all the other things social media does. It creates that jealousy, keeping up with the Joneses, all that sort of stuff. So I was watching this guy's video the other day, and he's just like, do whatever you can to not reach for your phone, even if it's just a minute. Do something else first, whether it's getting your blood flowing, whether it's thinking of the things you're grateful for, speaking them out loud, starting off with the correct mindset before you let anything else start to take you down other roads.
You mentioned social media. I want to touch on that really quickly because I've had people ask me why I never post any drama or anything, negative that might be going on. I never posted on Facebook in particular. And I shared with a friend of mine who does this regularly that, do you know what you're doing when you do that? First of all, you're convincing yourself you got a really crappy day. You're letting all your friends know you got a really crappy day. But even more importantly, you hear of something called Facebook memories. A year from now, you get to know what a crappy day you had a year ago. And it just feeds us. So if you're doing this every single day, guess what? You wake up in the morning, look at Facebook, and you get a Facebook memory from how crappy your life was a year ago. It's like this self-fulfilling prophecy. Put great things out there, and they will continue to reinforce the greatness, the great person you are, and you'll keep walking in the right direction.
Yeah, and you just gotta. The question I came up with, because we all seek significance. It's a primary need, and we're gonna get it somehow, some way. And social media is an excellent way to instantly get that feeling of significance. And so what I try to do, I don't know if I am, perfect at this, but I try to ask, is what I'm posting about me, or am I adding value to the greater world? Right? Is it a tip or a trick or something I'm teaching someone? Or is it some sort of comedy that's not necessarily about myself, but is going to make someone else's day better, right? So I try to ask myself: is what I'm posting valuable to other people, or is it more about me getting attention and significance? And I'm telling you, my social media posting has gone down from multiple times today to maybe once a month, because it is most of the times we reach for our phone to post. It's my tank is a little empty, and I need some instant significance and some instant likes and shares.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what a horrible day that ends up being. You're just sitting there watching your phone. Who loves me? Who loves me?
So on the flip side of the other scenario that I mentioned, a year from you putting up that post, you get to read that Facebook memory and you get to be reminded how profound your thoughts were a year ago. And you're like, man, that was really cool. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or the lack thereof, right?
Or the lack thereof. Correct.
I'm usually embarrassed. I see memories come up and I'm embarrassed. I was like, gosh, I was really pathetic back then.
Well, it's just the foundation you're building on, right?
Right. I'm still young. I got a lot of years.
There you go. Well, great stuff. All around physiology, focus and belief, and language. What you're saying to yourself, you guys, definitely does matter. And you know what? When we talk about in a world of being of a lot of people that are, I kind of dislike this word, but the snowflakes, people who are just so tied up into the emotional and feeling sides of things. If you start focusing that feeling and that emotion on the positive things in your life, it'll be amazing how much more interesting things like information and facts and logic become to you, because you'll take that side of your life less seriously and you'll be more interested in building on yourself, building the individual, the great individual that you are. Kevin Hunter here with Adam Wallschlager on the Business Forum show. Thanks everybody who joined us. This concludes today's live programming on Northwest Digital News. Thanks for joining us for this special broadcast. Heard around the world in more than 70 countries on YouTube, Instagram, Patreon, Facebook, and Twitch TV. If you enjoyed a story or guest we had here on Northwest Digital News and would like to strut your stuff on the broadcast, email us today at wainfo2017@gmail.com or call or text to 360-545-3501. We're always interested in unique stories, topics, and guests to share with our worldwide audience. Before you go, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up and comment on the live stream. And for those of you who'd like to financially support the broadcast, you can do so at patreon.com/Northwest Digital News. We thank you for your patronage. On behalf of Chris Bornstead, Kyle Torgeson, Stephanie Hunter, and all the people that made this broadcast possible, I'm Kevin Hunter. Till next time, take care.